The typewriter was an invention that in some form dates back as early as 1575, when an Italian printmaker called Francesco Rampazzetto invented a machine to impress letters and papers in order to help the blind read. But some of the more common typewriters we're used to seeing today started taking shape in the late 1800s. In 1870, the Hansen writing ball was the first typewriter manufactured commercially, while the first commercially successful and first QWERTY keyboard typewriter, known as the Scholes and Glidden typewriter, was manufactured in 1873. Many other models followed after that, but kept the same overall front-striking style. Typewriters were a very important part of our lives before computers came along. We used them during World War I and World War II for communication. The Army even assisted parents in writing letters to their children who had gone off to war for their country. It's what novelists and Hollywood scriptwriters used to write their masterpiece with, and what used to be called journalists typed their latest investigative findings on. It's what police officers wrote the reports on, and it's what everyone had in their home before the computer. In fact, the typewriter is what evolved into a computer, and without it, we would not have the sophisticated machines we have in our homes today. And with the re-emergence of the retro era, it's no surprise that people are looking to get their hands on these old devices, while others never got rid of them and prefer to do all their writing on these old typewriters. Whatever the reason, they're an important part of our history and deserve recognition. So stick around, watch me take one apart, and give it a new life. Hello everyone and welcome. I'm the Retro Repair Guy. So no more man cold, it's all gone. And at the same time, I wanted to tell you it's a happy and sad day. Happy because Santa came by early, dropped off this brand new chair, which is actually really comfortable, I have to say. But at the same time, sad day because I had to get rid of my 15-year-old chair. It was pretty bad, I know. As you can see here, there was some laces tying up the sides. And I have to say, look, it's not that I was comfortable. It's just one of those things. You keep your chair around for 15 years. That's what happens. It falls apart. And the laces was only a recent thing, but I think that's what did it for Mrs. RRG. She said, you're not going to, sit on a chair like that, your back and everything. I almost fell off a few times. So she called Santa and he delivered one of my gifts a little early. Today we're taking a look at a typewriter. I'm not fixing anything electronic. I am fixing the typewriter. So why did I pick a typewriter? Well, even though it's not like I could have picked an electric typewriter, you'd say. But the thing is, the typewriter, first of all, I stumble on it. And I do have a lot of electric typewriters. The original IBM one, the huge one. I have that from the 70s. That was my uncle's, of course. He gave it to me. I had a lot of stuff from my uncle. But when I stumbled upon this one, I saw they have replicas like this now. They're like $300 on eBay. On the Jungle site. So the thing is that, anyways, they have those replicas, like I said. But this was $12, and I want to, see what we could do with it. Like if you happen to find one in a thrift store and you're interested, how to clean it up, what we could do with it. And it's an important part of the history and the nostalgia, because in every home office in America, there was a typewriter. There was, as much as there are computers today in home offices, that's what you found. There was the typewriter. You typed your CVs on it, your school papers, and there was no such thing as emails, right? So we wrote letters to, when I was 16, wrote a letter to a girl I loved. But anyways, that's besides the point. So I wanted to take a look at that, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So without further ado, let's go take a look. I began by removing all the dust and dirt I could with my shop vac. Seems like whoever had the unit was actually using it because there were paper clips, an old type erase pencil, and coffee stains on the keys. When I quickly tried it in the store, some of the keys were getting stuck. In my opinion, it's not use trying to repair stuck keys before the unit is clean, as these kinds of problems are often due to dirt and grime. I'm cleaning the unit with mineral spirits. I covered the keyboard properly as it's made of hard plastic and the mineral spirits might damage it. I poured the liquid into an old spray bottle as this will make the cleaning process much easier. Remember to do this in a well-ventilated area and wear gloves. I sprayed the mineral spirits all over the type bars and scrubbed the typeface with a wire brush to dislodge all the old ink. I followed that up with a soft toothbrush that allowed me to get in between all the type bars. It's important to clean the base of the type bars as this is often where there is dirt, debris, or buildup that makes the keys stick. I also wiped down each type bars to remove dirt and the rest of the mineral spirits. I then cleaned the type bar fork and ribbon guides to remove all the old ink buildup and wiped it dry. And I wiped down the area where the roller sits. I finished it up with my trusty blower to make sure to get all the dust out of any crevices. I then tested the keys one by one. The A and S keys were a little crooked and had been pushed apart over the years of use, so I straightened them. The only remaining key that was sticking was the F key, so I straightened it out. It was still sticking a bit, so I scrubbed the base of the key again and it did the trick. All the keys worked perfectly. I cleaned the rest of the unit with a soft toothbrush and a few drops of mineral spirits just to dislodge any remaining dirt. The two guides had become loose over time, so I tightened them. I noticed the paper guide had lost a screw, so I went to the hardware store with the old one. It's bright and shiny and has a square head instead of a flat one, but it won't show as it will be inside the casing. I then took a disinfecting wipe and cleaned each key and removed coffee stains from many of them. Some of the keys had yellowed, and I normally would do some retrobrighting by soaking them with hydrogen peroxide and water while exposing them to UV rays, but I don't want to remove the keys and risk breaking them, and I don't want to sink the whole unit in water. So, I'm using just the UV lamp. I returned the next morning, but I was unhappy with the result, so I tried to wet the top of the keys with hydrogen peroxide to see if it would work a little better and left it for the day. I finally left it a total of 2.5 days. You'll see the results a little later. Okay, so I want to share with you a couple of things. First of all, I think the gut reaction when we see something rusted is let's go for the WD-40. Stay away from WD-40, especially for the typewriters, okay? It's going to leave a lot of residue, and that's not what we're looking for. Now, first of all, mineral spirits is what I'm using. It's safe on all surfaces, and of course, removes grease, which is what you want. You want to be removing the grease. Try not to get it on my chair here, my new chair. Anyways, what happens is the keys, when they're hitting, they're getting stuck, okay? So you look at the bottom here, the keys are going, I don't know, I'm making this sign, but anyways, they're like this, okay? So when they're hitting and they're getting stuck, a lot of times it's from the bottom. Now, you know where it's all open at the bottom, what happens is dirt, grime, whatever, it all gets in there, the ink, and it's getting dirty, so they're getting stuck there. 90% of the time, this will be the area you need to. So before you start trying to bend them back into shape, throw some WD-40. Oh yeah, it's working. No. Clean it with that. And now I've put in a spray bottle. Now you'll notice that this is a plastic bottle, okay? However, don't go out and buy the cheapest little plastic bottle for $1 at the dollar store because it could melt through it. Get yourself a better bottle from the big box stores, or I used an old Hertel bottle that was empty, and of course rinse it out many times. You don't want to be mixing chemicals here. But the thing is, you just want to spray a little bit all over the keys, okay? And then I used a wire brush to dislodge all of the ink from the typeface. After that, I used a toothbrush for the sides of the keys because you know the key, for example, on the side, you don't want to be scratching the side. I use the wire brush just for the typeface, not for the sides. You don't want to be scratching that. You clean that all up. Like I said, just spray it a couple of times if you have to. And of course, do that in a well-ventilated area. Open a window if you're going to do that on your kitchen table. Open the patio door. Don't want to be breathing that stuff, but you shouldn't be using too much anyways. Like I said, just a little bit with a spray bottle. So you clean that all up. And of course, stay away from the WD-40. And you'll see that'll fix 90% of your keys problem. After that, you might have to rebend a couple back into shape. In my case, there was one I had to bend a little bit, the F key. Everything else functioned after I cleaned it. So when it comes to the retro brighting, I want to mention something. I saw actually Perry Fractic's show who said that he got the same results turning stuff white, with the UV rays and without, anything else, without any cream or without any hydrogen peroxide. I always use hydrogen peroxide. I immerse stuff in water. It works wonders, all right? So I do agree, and I did tested it myself. It does work. It did whiten the keys. However, after almost 3 days with the UV lamp, it didn't achieve as good as a result, and at the same time, I cannot say that they are all 100% white. There's still a little bit of yellow on some of the keys. So it's just, I think if you keep it there for a whole week, probably, maybe it would work, but I really, my UV lamp was getting really hot. It was on it all the time. So if you leave it out in the sun, maybe it's even better. I don't know. However, I have to say that the hydrogen peroxide does accelerate the process and does work a lot better. So that's all I have to say, but I didn't want to start removing the keys, risk breaking them, and you don't know if they're going to stick again. So I didn't want to mess around with for the typewriter. It's nice. They're solid. Everything. It was just trying to get them a little bit whiter. The rollers are made of rubber, and their job is to keep the paper in place and pull the paper up or down. When the rubber is used, it'll slip, which is the same principle as when the pinch roller is slipping and not pulling a tape cassette properly. So, I'm using Rubber Renew on them to restore traction. You can see and feel the difference as your finger just slips across the old surface or feels like rubber. Looking at the roller up close, you can see how smooth and shiny the surface has become and losing its grip. I cleaned it 3 times with Rubber Renew as the old ink and dirt just kept coming out. The surface of the rollers now feel and look more like rubber. These will guarantee a good traction when pulling the paper. Well, there you have it, a beautiful typewriter from the 1970s. And I hope you've enjoyed it. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit the